So
Get
if anyone
into
has been
it.
tracking this case, even if you haven't, you may have seen the video
The
of Cassie
trial of the century.
in the hotel, that alleged assault in the hotel where
Sean
you see her
Diddy
and Diddy
Combs.
chasing her down the hallway. So we do expect that Cassie
Let me
Ventura,
know in the
Cassie
comments if
Ventura
you think
Combs,
he should have took the plea deal.
Cassie Ventura will
Well, if
testify.
he's doing
We
right
expect
going
that
by
she'll be
this
the star
jury
witness for the
trial.
prosecution, and it's possible
And the jury
that she could take the
has
stand
been
today after
selected.
opening statements and these opening arguments that
The
we have
judge
here.
will be swearing the jury in,
Combs' former partner, Cassie Ventura, she's anticipated to be really a central witness.
and we will start.
She
Let's
previously
listen to
filed a
him now.
lawsuit in November 2023 alleging years of abuse, including rape and sex trafficking. That case apparently was settled a short time after that. Now, really, what happened with Cassie was one of the big reasons why we are here today. That video certainly changed the public narrative around this case, and she is expected to be one of the people who will testify. Now, when you see her, or when you see, because the thing is, in federal court, they don't have cameras inside. The reporters who are inside, they don't even have their cell phones. They take the cell phones, or you leave them outside before you go in. So that's when you're going to get those sketches. So you'll likely see a sketch of her on the stand, and she's pregnant. So they do have some specific rules around how long she's going to testify at a certain time because of just what they say is a physical condition. So there's that 2016 surveillance video and alleged to show Combs assaulting Cassie, and that's definitely expected to be presented during the trial. There was kind of a debate about whether or not they were going to do that. So how many women are accusing Diddy, and will they disclose their identities? Great question. I got an answer. So we know that there are 3 anonymous female accusers. It sounds like one of them they may not be able to locate. That was part of our reporting that we had this morning. So 3 were initially a part of what was going to who was going to be on the stand and who was going to testify for the prosecution. But now it sounds like it may just be 2 plus Cassie. We're not sure. Things could change. And this is really going to take, this is probably going to take the first week or so. This is not just something that's going to happen today. So anyway, 3 anonymous female accusers referred to in court documents as Victim 1, Victim 2, and Victim 3. These women are expected to testify under pseudonyms. Their identities would not be released, and they allege being drugged, coerced into sexual acts, subjected to physical abuse during events orchestrated by Combs during those freak-offs. So we also expect that former employees and potentially associates will be testifying as well. Prosecutors plan to call former staff members who allegedly facilitated or concealed Combs's actions. We know that. Their testimonies may shed some light on the internal operations of Combs's enterprise and some of the things of how it worked. It's possible that they have been, I don't want to say forced to testify, is not the right word, but they've been subpoenaed to testify, so they are obligated to testify, and they have to come down there. They may not want to, but once you go into the witness stand, once you're in the box and you put your hand on the Bible, you got to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So that's what will happen there. We also expect that there will be law enforcement officers who will be testifying. So the question, are any other celebrities accused of being involved in Diddy's alleged criminal operation? That's a good question also. We know that there was a civil suit that was filed earlier, and that civil suit was against, named Jay-Z as someone who may have been involved in these freak-off parties. That lawsuit was dismissed, but certainly you get an idea of the level of celebrity who we're talking about here. So when Diddy had some of these parties, let's put the freak-offs to the side that may have happened sort of in the shadows after or whenever. But just the parties that he had, those were, see and be seen kind of events. I mean, those were events where you'd be on page 6 in the Post, or you'd be, in the early days of TMZ. They were parties that people wanted to be at. I mean, let's be honest, Diddy was one of the most influential music producers of all time, certainly of his generation. So he had the power, he had the wherewithal, he had the money, he had the ability to snap his fingers and potentially make you a star. So the parties that he had were attended by all kinds of celebrities. Now, whether or not they were involved in the alleged criminal activity is a different story. But we do know that prosecutors, when the prospective jurors, when they were initially questioned and asked to fill out the questionnaires, they were asked that what is your familiarity with Diddy? What is your familiarity with Bad Boy Records? And at least 190 or a lot of public figures were referenced, who potentially could be referenced during the trial in some way, shape, or fashion. I can't really say at this moment while I'm sitting here what exactly, how they'll be portrayed, but Diddy's the only one facing charges here. But the names that were mentioned that could be a part of the record here, Kanye West. Okay, Kanye West, very controversial, obviously a huge producer during the 2000s. He was who he was. Kanye West kind of is who he is now, and has his own set of controversy. But he's one of the people who they mentioned. Kid Cudi, a lot of people may not be familiar with him. He's kind of one of those enlightened rappers, but was very popular. Had a couple of really big songs at the one point. And Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan's one of the biggest actors out there right now. His new movie Sinners is number 2 at the box office. Now, not saying in any way that he is affiliated with any criminal activity. However, when the jurors were asked to fill out those questionnaires, they were asked if they had familiarity with these individuals. And so Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Michael B. Jordan, those were some of the highlighting the celebrities who prosecutors say could be in the orbit of the criminal enterprise. So that was one of the things that was asked there. So Jen, again, just to set the stage here, we are looking at Pearl Street. This is Lower Manhattan. Jury selection concluded this morning, right around, earlier this morning, a couple of hours or so ago. So once that happens, then the jury will be sworn in. And after the jury is sworn in, they may or might not take a break, or they might jump right into it, and there will be opening statements. Question: why are no cameras inside? As a member of the media and a reporter who's covered plenty of federal cases from Washington State to Florida to North Carolina and up here in New York City, I wish that they would change the rules. But in federal courts all across the country, cameras are not allowed in. Really, electronic devices are not even really allowed in unless you're an attorney. Of course, the attorneys can have their phones and their computers, et cetera, et cetera. But the members of the media who go inside, they have to basically check your phone at the door. I've done that many times going into this specific courthouse, the other one over in Brooklyn, where you're running up there to cover a case, and I've forgotten that you're not allowed to bring your phone in. So once you get to the door, they take the phone, they give you a little sort of key card, you put it in there and you can get your phone back out when it's time to go. But cameras are not allowed inside. So unfortunately, that's why you won't see any of the video from inside there, but you will get those sketches, those famed sketches, which if you've watched trials all along, you'll know that you've seen that, especially from federal court. Is Diddy looking at life in prison? He sure is. Sean Diddy Combs was looking at the possibility of life in prison. If he's convicted on all counts, faces a minimum of 15 years, potentially life in prison. Maybe it's a headline, will Diddy, someone who is not, someone of his stature, will he actually be sentenced to life in prison? If everything goes disastrously for him, theoretically that could happen. It is a possibility. So we will see. The charges again: racketeering, that's what they used to put the mob away on; kidnapping, self-explanatory; arson, bribery, and sex trafficking. Certainly sex trafficking, racketeering, kidnapping. I mean, those are things that are far outside of what you would consider sort of a minor crime. I mean, those are serious crimes that he's facing here. It might be a good point to kind of look at what the defense might be thinking here. So we kind of went over some of the prosecution's points, which are going to detail how they want to show that Combs ran this alleged criminal enterprise for 20 years, from 2004 to 2024. So what's the defense going to say? Most likely, obviously they're going to try to pick apart the defense's case. And so anything that is questionable, anything that seems a little bit out of the ordinary, they're going to really hone in on that. But they're also going to say that the government is relying on unverified claims, and many of them are tied to civil lawsuits. Maybe they're lawsuits that Diddy settled to make them go away. Maybe he just wanted to make them go away because he didn't want the negative headline no matter what would have happened in court. But maybe he made it go away. But those lawsuits, maybe they're going to come back. Either way, those were not criminal convictions. So the defense is going to say, those were not criminal convictions in those cases. You should not rely on the information there. They're going to say that some of the accusers included people who remain close to Diddy and maybe posted positive things about him in the aftermath. They're going to say that the non-disclosure agreements were not legal contracts. They're not cover-ups. So those NDAs that maybe people signed. They're going to emphasize that maybe some of these witnesses were motivated by money, fame, or revenge. Certainly you could theoretically hear that as a possible defense here. And then one of the things you think that they're almost certainly going to look at and almost certainly try to pick apart is the use of the RICO charge, because RICO is, that's how they put away the mob. Those are the sort of racketeering charges that you usually associate with things like that. And so they're going to say that that's intended for organized crime, not entertainers with entourages. They're going to say that, look, Diddy was a person a lot of people wanted to be around because of his stature, because of his money, because of his power. And that if you look at it through a criminal lens, of course you're going to see criminality there. Of course you're going to see the things that may seem like they're out of the ordinary for some people, and now you're going to argue that they're criminal. Part of the things, especially when it comes to these so-called freak-offs, unclear exactly how much
Okay, I want to give you a live update. Opening statements. Judge Submaranian has finished reading his preliminary instructions to the jury, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson is now giving the prosecution's opening statement. This is Sean Combs, Johnson begins, gesturing to Combs at the defense table, to the public. He was Puff Daddy or Diddy, a cultural icon, a businessman, larger than life. But there was another side to him, a side that ran a criminal enterprise. She continues, during this trial, you are going to hear about 20 years of the defendant's crimes, but he didn't do it alone. He had an inner circle of bodyguards and high-ranking employees who helped him commit crimes and cover them up. Judge also says he'll try to move this trial promptly. He says the newly empaneled jury is in the courtroom for the first day of the federal criminal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Judge Aaron Submaranian told the jurors he will make every effort to move this trial along promptly. The judge said court will run from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. this week and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard in the weeks to come. Video of Cassie Ventura will be used to show Combs has a history of using force, says a CNN analysis. Let's go back to live to see what he's stating, and then I'll come back to you. when I get a further update. Don't forget to hit the like when you come in. Hit the like, please. Hit the like.
This is not just New York media. It's not just media out in Hollywood. This is an international case. And so the implications here certainly affect not just the music industry, but all kinds of business all across the world in a lot of cases, because Diddy was really an international figure. So it's going to be a jammed courtroom.
Yes,
are they going to show some video proof today? Will they show it today? That's a good question. You wonder that it certainly is a possibility. But you know that in just the way things are going to line up today, jury is sworn in, okay? Then you're going to get your opening statements, your opening arguments. When a prosecutor makes his opening argument, they lay out the whole case. So that's not going to be a 15-minute process. They're going to take you through line by line what they have in their multiple page indictment. And they're going to cite examples, and they're going to say that this happened on this date, on this thing, and here's who you're going to hear from. So that itself could take 45 minutes, the opening statement itself. Then the defense is going to go. That's going to be another 45 minutes to an hour. So let's say, maybe they break for lunch after the prosecutor, so they usually get an hour for lunch, they come back, the defense gives his opening statement, they take another break, they call the first witness to the stand. Then you could get it at that point. That certainly would be a possibility. But a lot of times they don't want to necessarily start down one road when it gets to 4:30, 5 o'clock when they're going to break. I don't know exactly what it is here. I actually recently served on a jury, and it was in Essex County, and that judge was tight. 4 o'clock came, and pretty much that was the end. They went a little bit over, but for the most part, once the day is done, the day is done. So if Cassie, who we are expecting will be the first witness, one of the first witnesses, if not the first witness, and she is at the heart of that video in the hotel, that will certainly be a key piece of evidence. Will they introduce it today? I'm not sure. I think that certainly they'll introduce her, who she was, talk a little bit about, what the nature of the relationship was. And what the prosecutor is trying to do here is tell a story. And they're going to build this up slowly, but in as much detail as possible. So probably won't do the video as soon as she starts to testify and is on the stand. But certainly as a part of what she will be there for, will likely be to verify the authenticity of that video. So it's possible. What is your opinion on all of this? I was born in 1980, okay, and I grew up in Jersey. So 1993, 1994, I was just starting high school. You're just starting to figure out, your way. And that was when Diddy and Notorious B.I.G., the Lox, Mace, all those guys, they were everything. And so they certainly shaped pop culture at that time. They kind of changed the course of the way the music industry was, because all of a sudden the rappers weren't just these kind of like outcasts. They were in a different way. I mean, they kind of brought that gangster rap, and Diddy certainly had a different polish on it. But what Diddy did was, in a sense, change the music industry. And when you change the music industry, you change society a little bit. You change pop culture a little bit. So I grew up with that, just kind of in my background. As I got older, I didn't listen to Diddy and all that stuff as much anymore. But certainly when you go from someone like Diddy, who, like I was thinking about this last week. Last week, he would have been getting ready to go to the Met Gala, right? The Met Gala was in last week in New York City. The fashion world was there. All the big celebrities were there. That's an event where a couple years ago, Diddy would have been getting ready to go to that. Instead, he was putting on his prison jumpsuit, and he was spending the night, not in prison, I shouldn't say that because he's not in prison, but he's in a federal lockup for now. He's spending his night there. So just the fall from grace of someone who was, as important to so many people. It's stunning. I don't think that's unfair to say. My opinion on the charges, I can't say that. But I think what happens in a lot of these times in these cases, what we're gonna see over the next 10 days while the prosecution is laying out its case is gonna be shocking. There are gonna be headlines where you're like, I cannot believe that. There are gonna be headlines where they're gonna mention other celebrities who were alleged to have been there, maybe in a way that doesn't necessarily imply that they did anything criminally wrong. But you're going to see these headlines and it's going to be shocking, and we're going to report on it. And it's going to seem like Diddy is done.
Guys, I just want to give you an update on the jurors. Juror number 2, a 69-year-old male who works as an actor and massage therapist. He lives in Manhattan. Juror number 5, a 31-year-old man who works as an investment analyst. He lives in Manhattan. Juror number 25, a 51-year-old male who has a PhD in molecular biology and neuroscience. He lives in Manhattan. Okay, so far we have all male. Juror number 28, a 30-year-old female working as a deli clerk. She lives with her mom and brother in the Bronx. Juror number 55, a 42-year-old female who is an aide in a nursing home. She lives in Manhattan. Now, I'm trying to figure out, will these people will the jurors be able to give him a fair trial? It seems like at their ages, they all know about Sean Diddy Puffy Love Combs. Oh, let's discuss what he did when he saw his family. After 8 months in the federal prison, Combs arrived for his first day of trial in a beige sweater over a white collared shirt and khaki pants. He greeted every member of his family with a hug before sitting down alongside his attorneys. After settling in his seat, Combs still turned around to blow a kiss toward his mother and children. Janice Combs, the rap mogul's mother, is a presence in the courtroom. She made sure to sit in the middle of her grandchildren with Combs's twin daughters on her right side and Combs's sons on the left. Combs put on reading glasses and poured himself a glass of water as the parties prepare to begin. Let's continue with him live. See if he has any new news.
Yes, the Fox Local app. You might get your Fox Local app update that says that Cassie is going to take the stand. So that's possible that could happen later on this afternoon. And yeah, Diddy was in court today. He was in a white sweater, greeted his lawyers. He gave a thumbs up to his supporters. His supporters included his mother and his kids, some others who were in there. So yeah, there we go. Will Justin Bieber testify? Have you guys seen what's been going on with Justin Bieber over the last couple weeks? If you watch the TMZ videos, it's got a lot of situations going on there.
He's probably
outside
so
of that.
afraid.
I don't know if Diddy's going to. I don't know if Bieber is going to testify. I don't know if Diddy's going to testify for that matter either. But certainly there was that headline a while ago where, there was sort of some questionable statements between Diddy and Bieber, what Diddy may have said to him, oh, hang out with me for the weekend, I'll help you out, da 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 da. It's possible, but when the jurors were given their list of their questionnaire of who they are familiar with, Justin Bieber was not one of the names that was at least put out publicly. Those names were Kanye West, Kid Cudi, and Michael B. Jordan. Justin Bieber not there. Will Justin Bieber be mentioned? Would you be surprised at this point if he was? I would not. I would not be surprised if he's one of the names mentioned. Whether or not he's going to actually have to testify is a different story. Has a list of people that will be testifying been given to the public? It has not. A lot of times what happens, though, when the jury comes in, as they're whittling it down and as they're narrowing it down, they will be given a list of the possible people who will testify, because if they know any of those people, if like you're on a jury and you know any of the people who are going to be testifying, you're like automatically dismissed. So those names are out there, at least in the private circle of the attorneys, the judge, and the jury at this point, but has not been made public. One thing we do know is that Cassie, who's Diddy's former partner, who's not pregnant, not with Diddy's child, we don't think at all, but she is anticipated to be a central witness. So we know she will testify. She will testify for the prosecution. 3 anonymous female accusers were thought to be on the list to testify. What we're hearing this morning is that one of them, they may not be able to locate that person right now. So we're going to keep track of that. And those women, victim 1, victim 2, and victim 3, they will testify under pseudonyms. They'll remain anonymous. Their identity is private because of the nature of the charges. But they are going to allege that they were drugged, coerced into sexual acts, subjected to physical abuse. All events they say were orchestrated by Combs at those events known as the freak-offs. And I feel obligated to do that every time I say freak-offs. But anyway, those are the ones who are going to testify. Possible former employees and associates, people who've been subpoenaed. Maybe they're Diddy's allies. Maybe they're people who don't want to testify against him. But, sometimes you're obligated to come down there, put your hand on the Bible, swear that you're going to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And whether or not it hurts your boss, your former boss, is a different story. So we know that's going to happen. Law enforcement officers, of course, who've been tracking the case. I mean, the FBI agents who built this case, they are going to be the ones who will also sort of spell out how they got to this point in the investigation, because it's not the prosecutors who did the investigation. It's federal investigators who sort of carried this out. We know that, and so certainly those are going to be many of the people who have to testify. What happened to the little black book? Diddy's lawyers said he was going to release. We're always hearing about those little black books, right? Who is in the list? Who was at these parties? Were there other people who were there? And maybe that's a scare tactic from one side to sway a potential witness to testify one way, or to stay away, or to vanish. But whether or not there's a reality behind that is unclear. That with the charges that Diddy is facing and the possibility of life in prison, that if there is a black book and they do think it's going to help them, maybe it's a Hail Mary throw at the end if things aren't going well. But it's one of those things. You gotta look for it, but their best defense is going to be how they can pick apart the prosecutor's case. Because it doesn't matter what happens in the media at this point. They can't try the case in the media at this point. They got to try the case in the courtroom, and the defense has to defend their case in the courtroom, because that jury is there, and theoretically the jury is not reading what's out in the newspapers anymore. So they got to bring it in the courtroom. If there's a black book, they better introduce it in evidence, because otherwise it's just going to be a headline that may not make a difference on what's going to happen with his sentencing. Let's see. What was the last plea deal? Well, we know that in the week leading up to the start of jury selection, that Diddy was offered a plea deal that is public information, and we know that Diddy turned down the plea deal. So what it was, we're not sure. A lot of times, if let's take for example, if it's a murder case, maybe they offer you a plea deal, and instead of first degree murder, you plead to, a manslaughter charge. So instead of the possibility of life in prison, you get 20 years in prison, right? Something like that, right? So Diddy is facing extremely serious charges: the racketeering, kidnapping, arson, bribery, sex trafficking. So if those charges carry the possibility of 15 years to life, they offered him some kind of deal, whatever it was. His defense thinks that they could do better. So that's why they ended up actually in court, in trial, because there's going to be a lot that's going to come out in this case, whether Diddy likes it or not at this point. His attorneys are going to probably try to stop and slow things down and call objections at every corner when possible. But there's going to be a lot that's going to come out that he's not going to want to be made public. All the reasons, there's reasons why he signed those non-disclosure agreements. There's reasons why many civil suits over the course of 20 years, and I don't know how many there are, but I'm sure there were a couple. But there's reasons why those cases are settled, because they don't want this information to come out publicly. But now it's going to come out, and especially this first part, when the prosecution is going to lay out the heart of their case and really like a shock and awe kind of situation. You're going to get some headlines. So you can expect that by tonight, we're going to have something a little juicier to talk about. Where's Diddy's family? Diddy walked into court today, and he had on his sweater. He had on his his sort of regular gear. He looked back, he smiled, and the report says he blew kisses to his mother and 6 of his children. That's the report. I got to double check that, but 6 of his children who were seated in the second row of the courtroom. So where's his family? His family's in court, standing beside him, standing behind him. There's a lot at stake for Diddy at this point. Yeah. All right. So we've been on for a little bit here this morning. One last time, just to set the scene. Jury selection is over. The high stakes trial of Sean Diddy Combs is officially now underway. The jury, if it hasn't already been, will be sworn in this morning. After that, we're going to get our opening statements from both sides, prosecution, defense. The high bar here is on the prosecution, because in the United States of America, you are innocent until proven guilty. So they've got to prove their case. Federal prosecutors say the 55-year-old music mogul used his power to run a criminal enterprise, abusing women over 2 decades, 20 years. Talked about the charges many times. He's entered a plea of not guilty. He's being held without bail in Brooklyn. He's tried to get out several times, but through the course of this trial, which is expected to last between 6 to 8 weeks, he will remain in custody. If he's convicted on all counts, he faces 15 years, the possibility of life in prison, and it all starts today. So keep in touch with us. We'll be live on our YouTube page whenever we can. And of course, just about 55 minutes from now, we'll be live on our noon show, 5, 6 o'clock. We got reporters on the scene, inside, outside, in the studio, out of the studio. So count on us for updates. All right, goodbye. Sorry about that. I know, I understand. I want to be respectful for you guys, honestly. I'm small still.
Okay, guys, I have something to update you on. 10 minutes ago, prosecutor Combs called himself the king and expected to be treated like one. Prosecutor Emily Johnson is describing Sean Diddy Combs' inner circle, telling the jury how those close to Combs helped him commit crime after crime. Together, the group worked to promote the defendant's power. They carefully cultivated and guarded his reputation, she says. He called himself the king and expected to be treated like one, Johnson adds. He expected his inner circle to cater to his every desire, including his sexual desires, and his inner circle made sure he got everything he wanted. Oh, this ain't good. This ain't good. Johnson says resources from his businesses were used to sexually explicit multiple women, including by forcing them to have sex with male escorts while he watched. Whoa, you're gonna have to prove it. Oh my goodness, this is horrible. 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 I'm going to stay live for a few more minutes to see if I get any more updates on what they are doing inside of the courtroom or if anything is being said. Whew, child. Okay, about a minute ago, they are continuing. Cassie Ventura met Combs in 2006 when she was 19. Cassie Ventura was a 19-year-old model, aspiring singer, and had not had a hit song when she met Sean Diddy Combs in 2006. He was 17 years older than her when they met. Within a year of signing Ventura with his label, they were dating. They dated off and on until 2018. The defendant started abusing Cassie early on. Initially, Cassie fought back. Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson said in her opening statement. In 2009, Combs threw her to the floor in an SUV and stomped repeatedly on her face, she said. To hide her injuries, Combs forced Cassie to stay in a hotel for the next week. Ooh, Diddy. Diddy. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Okay, and I will update you on what prosecutor says trial will focus on these two victims. Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson says much of the prosecution's case will focus on two women, Cassie Ventura, Sean Diddy Combs' former girlfriend, and another victim they'll call Jane, a pseudonym that will be used during the trial. The defendant used lies, drugs, threats, and violence to force and coerce first Cassie and later Jane to have sex with him in front of male escorts. The defendant insisted that the sex occur in a very specific, highly orchestrated way. These sexual performances lasted multiple days, and they included multiple escorts. Johnson says the defendant called these encounters different things over the years, including freak-offs, wild king nights, and hotel nights. Sorry about that, guys. So sorry. All right, let's see if I can find anything else. And then, of course, I will be back to go live. Again, please turn on your notification bells so that you will know when I am live. And also, when you continue to come in, please hit the like button. Thank you.